We're talking to Jaffa right now, guys. AFK farmer, enjoyer, policeman of the AFK farmers. Oh, I found some. I'm going over. This is the perfect backdrop for this conversation. I've gone to the Choya spot, which is the most based farm, actually, of all the farms.
The Choyas.
Yeah, I'm getting involved. I'm literally doing it right now. Join me, Jaffa. Come on your EU. Do you have an EU account?
Not with Corner.
Oh, because I'm just gonna. While we're talking, I'm literally gonna AFK farm. I'm gonna do it. I am gonna literally farm Choyas for the entire duration of this, whatever this is. Like we're talking about Choyas.
Excellent.
I'm not actually gonna AFK farm though, guys. I'm gonna actively farm the Choyas because I'm ethical.
You pretend to AFK farm. That's the way it goes.
I'm an ethical AFK farmer, guys. Okay, that's what this is. Okay, that's what we're doing. But anyway, I guess we might as well kind of get into it, actually. You know, the pleasantries aside. We're here to talk about AFK farmers, which is kind of a topic that I feel like it really fell off hard. You know, like, it was like a big thing, and there was like a post every single day about it. It was constant talk of AFK farmers. Everyone loves this stuff, right? A million posts, like, everyone's exposing them, trying to grief them, all this kind of crazy stuff. Then it just kind of fell off. And you brought it back. You brought it back into the limelight by exposing them, exposing the secret of the AFK farmers. And exactly, some really good research, right, as well, into kind of like what they're farming, like how efficient it is, like how much gold it actually generates, all that kind of stuff. So I guess I want to ask you, what was your motivation for this? Like, why did you go? You know what? I'm gonna AFK. And find out the truth about AFK farmers. Why did you do this?
There was no content to play.
Yeah.
And I like spreadsheets.
Yeah, that's
so it was just like, no content. What can I do? Instead of AFKing in a city, I'll just run around and be like, oh look, here's some people who are just AFK farming, and then just like, how many spots can I find? And then I've got a friend of mine. You've probably seen his videos. He's like the AFK farmer killer. He's like beyond the wall. Makes videos going around. Like he goes like full role play. He's like, I've brought this AFK bot through all the way into Divinity's Reach and thrown him off a bridge and all this stuff. So a little while ago, he made a post on the Reddit being like, I am the AFK destroyer. What are some AFK locations you know of where I can harvest some farmers and mess around with them? So I used some of his posts and talked to him a bit, and just sort of made a little route that I'd go on every day a couple of times, and just be like, here's some names. Oh, here's some people. Collect them up, and then just turn them into a bit of a spreadsheet to see how many there were daily, how many times you saw the same people, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that nobody really bothered to make actual data on this, right? In terms of like the number of AFK farmers, like all the accounts and stuff like that, and also kind of like actual drop rate, like essentially drop rate research, right, into like what you actually get for doing this. Like nobody really bothered. It was like, whatever, just it is what it is. Like it kind of looks goofy, but Arenanet don't really care, so whatever. And like, I don't know, like what I guess it's like we should definitely bring up like, what did you find, right? Like, what did you find? What were your findings regarding like the number of AFK farmers and like what they're actually up to, right? Like what they're actually getting out of this? Because it's like I'm here right now. These are all from the same guild. This is almost certainly the same player, right? Like I'm looking at it right now. There's like there's triple Azura over here, and there's like another player over here. And there's also like multiple other characters like with this. What I'm surprised about, it's like so blatant. It's like the same guild tag as well, right? Like they're not even pretending to be separate players, right?
Like if you're like AFK farming on one account, it's just like whatever. Like it's against the terms of service, but it's just like one account, whatever. Who cares really? But when you've got like 5, 10, 20, I think the most in my video I made, there's like 29 accounts. All the exact same person, exact same name. It was like, how can you be this obvious?
Yeah.
Yeah, but nah, I'm trying to find my data. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't like a massive amount of I suppose it is actually quite a substantial amount because I was just doing North American servers because I don't have all the locations on EU. So currently there was 668 accounts on North American servers. So that's a number that exists. But no, as you would expect, they were all the Living World Season 4, well, pretty much all the Living World Season 4 maps, because the good old volatile magic and stuff. So even if they're getting shit drops, the magic's just flowing into convert tier
and you have
6s.
like the Jade bot thing as well, right? That gives you the you know, that juices you, right? Like you get like materials for every kill and stuff like that as well. I imagine that's also a bit of a contributor, right?
I didn't account any of the Jade bot stuff, and I also didn't add in any of the there's like the karmic retribution thing. You can like level up on each of the Living World maps. I didn't include any of that, but the karma generation isn't amazing. I think you talked to Incredible Sushi at some point, didn't you? And I think he went over how much of those little karma things he got in an hour. But I don't. That was probably about a year ago now, I think.
Yeah, I killed him with the sand shark, Jaffa. I got him.
You got him with
Yeah, I got him.
sand
It's actually just as we started talking, the sand shark just walked over. And I've just commandeered it. I've commandeered the shark. Yeah, that is a good point, actually, from Super Saiyan. Yeah, I think the reason why the karma retribution is good, it's not because of the karma, right? It's because it counts as a drop, right? And then that guarantees the volatile magic. So you get the volatile magic per hour goes up massively with that stuff, which is pretty big. But yeah, as you say, right, like it's not like a crazy big amount of accounts, right? If we're talking like, you know, a couple thousand accounts, at the end of the day, that's nothing compared to like the actual population of Guild Wars 2. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting actually is like the gold per hour research, because, you know, I will actually qualify this with saying that I feel like the gold per hour for AFK farming has actually massively gone up with Soto, because like material prices in some cases have actually quadrupled.
Yeah,
right?
they've blown up, especially the totems.
Yeah,
like,
the totems have blown up,
That's
right?
why you see so many at the Choyas, because your Choyas, they drop the totems and stuff, and that's like, what, 40?
Yeah,
40
they're 40 silver.
I think?
Like, everything is super expensive right now, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, very high value. Like, all the tier 6 materials are up super high, same with tier 4s and so on, which I think also get farmed kind of on the core maps, right, is where you have that stuff. So AFK farming is kind of juicy. Like, for reference, when we were talking about AFK farming last time, and, like, you showed some clips of people talking about, like, you know, like 3 to 5 gold per hour or whatever in terms of AFK farming. Like, just for reference then, back when those numbers were being talked about, powerful Venom sacks were less than 10 silver. They were like 8 silver each. They're 35 silver now. And that's kind of, I feel like that's like the most notorious AFK farm. That's like the Iboga farm, right? That's where you get the
when you think AFK farming, I think they immediately go to Ibogas in the Modric Caverns, and they immediately go to that Ascalon wall that's like being shot with the cannons.
Yeah. With the ghosts, right? They just kill all the ghosts and stuff.
Yeah, the ghost men.
Yeah, it's good. But I mean, just, you know, tell us a little bit about some of the data, right? Because you uncovered all this information. You did like some research on like the drop rates and stuff like that, and what people are getting. It's pretty, you know, it's surprisingly decent, right? Like, you know, I think people are kind of cranking out like 10 gold an hour, and so it would be like a pretty conservative estimate, right? Like, is per one of these accounts is like, you know, it's in the ballpark of 10 gold an hour, right? A lot of the time these days. Which
at the choice that you're at with if you're in like a low population spot and you're able to get most of the tags off, because there's a spot sort of, and if I pull up your stream, I'll be able to actually point it out. There's a spot, there's like a rock sort of outcrop where there's a big tree, and if you sit on that rock with a turret and a mechanist, your turret can hit the 3 that spawn sort of to the north, then the 4 sort of 2 left, 2 right of you then also aggro, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 veteran choice that you're basically killing off cooldown.
Holy shit!
So if you're in a low population zone,
insane.
You have all of those. If you have all of those, it's like upwards of 20 an hour. That's sort of what I was getting, and I was there for maybe 2-3 hours and averaged out at about 20. It was kind of cracked, but. So the choice is that's all the totems. That's really good. You probably get a lot in Sandswept Isles at the Awakened Inquest. That's about 10 to 14. The standard Aboga engineer file was about 8, but that's because the venoms have gone down a bit. I think when you were talking with Sushi and his accounts, he was saying he was getting about 9 gold an hour, so that's about the same.
Yeah.
And there's the inquest in Bloodtide Coast. I didn't really talk a huge amount of that, but that relies
There's like a
mostly
bug, right,
on
or something,
event
right?
spawns.
Yeah, there's like some kind of like
Yeah.
thing you can hyper spawn the events, right?
Yeah, because there's like an inquest generator something event, and all of the inquests for the entire event spawn in one spot, and then they swim out and like spread apart. So if you're set up there when the event spawns, the generators appear, but they have no enemies around them, so regular players, I mean, the zone's pretty dead anyway. Regular players don't finish the event, and so you're there just like churning out like hundreds and hundreds of kills an hour, because every single inquest spawns in this tiny little spot. So it's like spawn and then just get obliterated. So, and that one, it's an open world map, and I was getting about 20 an hour on average there.
Yeah, and
that's where I've
I think that where this goes is that at the end of the day, it's not like a crazy deal, right? It's not even like super good gold necessarily if you have one account. Although in some cases it is, right? If you're getting like 20 gold now, that's relatively respectable, honestly, right?
But it's decent. Like, if you're not doing anything,
well,
you just sit yourself there. It's like, oh, I got gold, awesome.
I think where this kind of leads though is actually to, in my opinion, which was the really interesting part of the video and kind of your investigations, is kind of actually like how it interacts with the terms of service. And with kind of like the policy that Arenanet have with regarding a couple of things, like first of all, multi-boxing. I think, like if you're an AFK farmer, you're really getting to work on your multi-boxing, right? Like, even if you were, let's say you're getting like 5 gold an hour, right? And it's kind of like old school, like low material prices. That's mediocre. But if you've got 20 accounts, all of a sudden you're doing 100 gold an hour, right? With that. And like, you could be doing that for like 8 hours a day very easily, and now you're cooking with gas, right? Like that's some serious cash if you're doing that. And of course, that's kind of the same thing that we even see here. It's like the fact that you can have so many accounts doing this simultaneously, and they all share drops, right? So that you all you get completely juiced up on all of the loot, and that's like a really interesting kind of unfortunate side effect of kind of the multi-box thing. But where I wanted to go with this was actually you did a lot of investigation. You even contacted GMs, right, about AFK farming, ask a couple of questions, and yeah, I would love it. You could kind of walk us through everything here on the stream, like what exactly you found out, right, with regards to like how Arenanet interacts with this, and like kind of the responses you got from some of the GMs, right, with this stuff.
Yeah, well, the GMs, a lot of people have probably interacted with support, and they are mediocre at best, I will say. But before doing all of the investigation and data collection and stuff, I messaged the support team. I was like, hey, I'm planning on doing this thing. Like a lot of people AFK farm, whatnot, doesn't really bother me, but it's in your terms of service. So I'm bored. I'm going to collect all of this data for you. And they were just like, all right, cool. I gave them links and access to all of the spreadsheets and everything I was collecting, and it was like I was in contact with, I think it was GM Claude for a lot of the time, and I was like collecting data. I was like, yep, here's this. Whenever I found like a massive multi-box, like 29 accounts was one's got, there was a couple that have 10, one I think had 15, and so those massive farms where it's like, if you're AFK farming on like 1 to 5 accounts, it's just like, yeah, whatever, no one really cares. Like it's not really doing anything. But when it's that many accounts, like there's one account, or one guy that had 29 accounts, and his location was about 14 gold an hour. So I worked out, 29 accounts at 14 gold an hour. Like you can imagine. And like I'd seen him, like I'd log on in the morning and do like a little round and be like, oh yep, there he is with his little farm churning out. I'd note that down. I'd come back maybe 8 hours later and be like, oh yeah, he's still there. There he is, doing his thing. And then before going to bed, I'd log in and be like, oh, look who it is. He's still there. So like he probably would have been there for, I don't know, maybe 12 hours a day, sort of intermittently. I wouldn't expect him to be there 24/7.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's a
yeah.
bit of
Like, I mean,
stretch.
who's even running their PC 24 hours a day, right? Like, I feel like only
it's
only people who do like actual botting operations or like full on like
Yeah.
RMT operations would do stuff like that. And
Yeah,
even
but
they wouldn't do that.
I-
It gets a bit suspicious, right, or whatever.
I did find a few like legitimate bots, and
Yeah.
not even they were 24 hours.
Yeah. You know what? You know what's super
Yeah, like
interesting?
this one guy with 29 accounts over the time that I was recording, I think I saw him about 31 days in a row, and I worked it out. If he's averaging the rates that I was getting, that's 102,000 gold
Holy
to that one
shit.
guy.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit, dude. So like I DM'd that over to Arena. I was like, hey, there's this one like Omega farm, and because
29.
all of that is just going straight to one person.
Oh, he's
Like,
being funneled. Yeah, he's funneling his main, of course. Yeah.
just being Omega fed.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
there's some crazy numbers there, right? That and that's kind of the power of multi-boxing, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, that's more of a multi-boxing OP than a AFK farming OP type of thing.
I kind of want to steer it back to actually to the policy and this GM stuff, because you did some really interesting research here actually. And again, like, I think it's kind of cool that Arenanet was actually willing to discuss this. But yeah, I guess just give us an overview of what that was. Like, what is Arenanet stance on AFK farming? Because I think that's almost like not exactly a controversial topic, but I think certainly a misunderstood one, right? I don't think when it's talked about, people are not totally sure where the TOS actually is, and I think it might even surprise people. Again, like, I've seen your video. I'm not going to spoil it. You're about to spoil it for everyone here. But yeah, there's it's a kind of a surprising turn of events almost, right? With like what the actual policy is, and of course, then you have the whether it gets enforced or not, of course.
Yeah, I'll just start off at I have gotten so many different responses from different Arenanet employees. Like, some GMs say something, and then I'll take that GM response and send it to another one, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is like there is no sort of agreed upon way that Arenanet as a whole looks at the policy." It's sort of like, how can you enforce a policy when all of your GMs are just like, oh, we don't really know what this means. So it's so shittily written that it's basically unenforceable. But the clearest response that I got was from GM Xylo, and pretty much it pretty much just goes over the unattended gameplay policy itself. Hang on, let me pull that up so I can actually read it and not make stuff up. And another thing is the unattended gameplay policy. What is stated on there? They are examples, not an outright.
Yeah, it's not like a clear. Yeah. It's not like it's not like a clear line for every situation.
Yeah, but it says any form of unattended gameplay is prohibited. So I was like, okay, big problem. Unattended isn't specified. What does unattended mean? And so I went and was talking to some of the GMs, like, hey, your policy isn't clear. Unattended, it's an undefined term within your policy. What do you mean by unattended? And they're like, oh, you'll be unattended is if you're inactive. I was like, oh, okay, cool. What does inactive mean? And they're like, oh, okay, inactive. And they're like, oh, inactive is when you're not actively playing the game. I was like, okay, yep, that's cool. So what constitutes not actively playing the game? So it was like this rabbit hole, like, here's a term. Okay, what does that mean? They give me another term. Okay, that still isn't a definition of what is or isn't allowed. Can you elaborate further? And so it was like a couple iterations down until I finally got an answer. It was like, oh, you pretty much, it comes down to if you're not pressing the buttons to kill an enemy, you're not actively playing the game.
Yeah.
So things like, because a lot of people, they sort of skew it and be like, oh, I'm not AFK farming because I'm at my computer. And that sort of thing. So, well, you can be at your computer, but not
that's written out, right? Like, exactly, yeah. Like that, the policy that you've described, that means you can't do that, right? Like you cannot do that.
Sort of the main part of the policy that a lot of AFK farmers fall into. It says the use of AFK farming, the use of auto casting abilities to farm while not at your computer or actively playing the game. So you can't use auto casting abilities to farm while not actively playing the game. And if you're not actively playing the game, it means you're not interacting with the game, you're not focused on the game. So like, let's say you've got your Necro sitting there auto casting and you're working on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
On your other screen.
Illegal.
While you're working on that while you're working on that spreadsheet, you're not in control of your character.
Yep.
So you're not actively playing, therefore that would technically be a violation. The problem comes when if a GM comes and, because the GMs don't really have any solid metric to judge your character off of, they come up to you, that they can't go, oh, are they AFK farming? They don't have like a solid policy to work on, so they go, oh, we have to play this little game of Simon Says, like, and they're like, oh, hey, can you just like move to the left, do a little dance, and then if you move to the left and do a little dance, they're just like, oh, you're not AFK. But if you're working on a spreadsheet on a second monitor, unless you're like an actual monkey, you're able to tell that something's happening on my screen. What's going on? Look, oh, there's a GM. I'm gonna look like I'm actually playing the game, type of thing. So you're breaching the policy, but to the GM don't have a solid metric to judge you on, and you have the whereabouts to sort of pretend that you're doing the right thing, and the GM's none the wiser, type of thing. So you can kind of break the policy without breaking the policy because it's undetectable type thing, which is a problem with the policy itself, and all that. But yeah, back with the unattended gameplay stuff. They were saying basically if you're not actively playing the game, that's a violation essentially, but it only applies to if you're farming. Because like if you're idling in a city, like you're inactively playing the game, but you're not doing anything. Like that's obviously fine. And same thing goes, like if you have stuff happening on a second screen, if you have like a movie, Netflix, YouTube, whatever going, but you're using skills and stuff, you're doing your raids, you got a movie on the side, that's fine. Like you are playing the game, but there's something else happening. So like the game is the main focus in that situation. It's fine. If you're doing something in the game is being monitored, it's like a secondary thing happening on the side, you're not actively playing, so that's not okay. Basically, GM Zalo put it pretty clearly. He essentially said you have to be operated independently on your account. So it essentially means you need to be the one controlling what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
So if everything, like, if your turrets or your minions are doing, like, you're just sitting there, you get hit, the minion does literally everything for you. Like, you're not interacting with the game. You're not independently operated. It's just like, the game is running itself essentially.
Essentially, their policy is not enforceable, right? Like, is kind of the problem.
Their policy cannot be enforced.
Yeah. They are not able to like enforce that policy. Well, I guess that's not entirely fair. It's just that they're not able to enforce that policy beyond like a reasonable doubt, essentially, right? Or maybe they should just go a little bit further with it, because realistically, if we're being real here, if we're actually going to get a little, be a bit of a party pooper, you probably shouldn't be able to do this stuff. Let's be honest here, right? I don't think that's a super controversial take. It's probably not good for the game. It's not a good look. I think it's really sour for a lot of players who kind of like actually play the game, especially when the farms are this good. I mean, like, I've been here, like, I haven't been AFK farming, so I guess it's not been super efficient, but, I've been running around killing the choyas, and you know what? It's pretty good. I've got like a bunch of these, crafting materials already. Like, they're starting to pile up, all this kind of stuff. It's not good, especially when you combine it with the multi-boxing, right? I think that Arenanet honestly probably should go a little bit further. And I don't know, do you have any ideas on how you could actually word it? Like, how could you word it that kind of... Would you just bite the bullet and say, even if you're at your computer, you're not allowed to do stuff like this? Like, how would you go about wording that, right? Like, in terms of, have you given that any thought? Like, how you do it?
I'm not sure. I have a feeling they'd have to go like a hard stance either way. They'd be like, okay, if they were just like AFK farming in its entirety is perfectly okay to do. Like, if just leave your account there, farm whatever, that's fine. I'd be like, okay, cool. as long as it's like clear, like because at the moment it's just poorly written policy where you don't know what you can and can't do kind of thing. You can't enforce it. So it's like they have to either go, yeah, do it. We AFKing perfectly fine. It's cool. Go for it. That way, you know, you can enforce that because you just don't have to do anything. Or they could go like AFK farming. If I suppose I could word it like suspicious activity isn't really a good way of wording it because anything could sort of count as suspicious activity. Yeah, wording it out clearly would be quite difficult because...
Do you think fixing it systemically would just be the way to go then? So in other words, basically,
yeah.
Let's just say
if
you don't move, right, your diminishing returns goes to 0, right, after like an hour or something.
Yeah.
If you've like literally not moved an entire hour, you get like literally 0 loot. Like I feel like that would.
Yeah.
I feel like there's 0 universe where that's damaging to normal players, right? And it would kind of get rid of this, right?
Something to do with player movement.
Yeah. Because I think that the player pattern here that's very kind of it stands out is the fact that there's actually no movement, right? Like they're not moving at all.
It's like Ninja on that New Year's Eve. Like I'm not seeing enough movement.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that would I think that might be the way to go because I think you're right. Like even us now, everyone you can hear us umming and ahhing about this. It's a really hard thing to actually legislate away with policy, right? I'm not sure you really can. I do think that you probably have to take a bit of a systemic approach. And
changing this. I think it because you want it to change so that it only affects people that would be breaking the terms. Because some people are just like, oh, you can make minions die after a certain amount of time. Like, sure, but that also affects people that are doing the right thing.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't... As soon as you start affecting people that are doing the right thing, that's obviously not good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why like a systemic solution would be good. Because again, if you have something like that with diminishing returns that only affects you if you don't move, then it is what it is, right? Like that's not going to affect anyone except people kind of engaging in this behavior. And actually on the point that you could just make a bot to do it, guys, I want to be clear. There are very few people here who are actually botting, okay? And you know what the thing is here? I think there are not many people who would be willing to bot to do this. Because I think when you get into that territory, it starts feeling real icky, right? Because that's no longer a gray area. That is an absolute no-no. You cannot do that. And I think actually the amount of people who would actually kind of go further and say, well, they fixed AFK farming, and if I don't move, right, then... it's over. Like to go to like a full-on botting operation, I don't know. I think that's actually not a lot of people would go for that, to be honest. And you'd also have to make the diminishing returns, so you'd actually have to do something to get rid of it. Because otherwise, I could imagine this scenario where AFK farmers would like be multi-boxing and it's like tab through all of their accounts, like move one step, and then away you go. You'd have to have some kind of system that says like, oh well, you've got to move like a pretty big distance, right? Like to fix it or something like that, or it like gradually ramps up again, like after you complete like you do like active stuff or something like that.
Diminishing returns is area based. I don't think it's map wide.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it does have quite a substantial range to it.
Yeah.
So like if you get because if you're at the choice spot, let's say you go over to like the Barbalite crater, which is that northern spot that has all the hyenas. There's the shark also roams. So like that kind of distance, I think that would probably reset the diminishing returns area for the open world. But yeah, like it does have quite the range to it.
Yeah.
And like on the people that are actually botting. Like, because I've got 668 accounts that I've recorded, of which only 9 of them were like
confirmed
outright
bots.
botting.
Yeah.
9 of them were outright botting.
Yeah.
And then you do get the macro users, which, I mean, botting and macros, they're basically the same thing, but the way that I separated them was botting was actually like moving around the place, botting, whereas macros, you might... let's say you're auto casting Nightfall on a Reaper, but then you might be macroing an auto attack as well, or you might be macroing Spectral Grasp to pull in all the enemies. So macroing on top, like it's botting. It's against the terms of service as well, but it's not as bad as a fully functional bot.
Yeah,
that was still like 30 people. So if you combine the two, that's 39 out of 600 and basically 670 accounts. So 39 of 670. Like it's still a small amount.
Well, I think that the key takeaway there is that if you were able to address the non-bots, that would essentially dissolve the problem significantly. Like bots, essentially. Like botting is always going to happen, right? Like it's an MMO, right? People are going to cheat, people are going to RMT. That's just the way it is. And obviously, those people should get banned and get caught. But I think the issue with AFK farming is that it is that slightly kind of like weird gray area. And again, as we mentioned, like very difficult for Arenanet to actually action, right? Like realistically, like you definitely have to give some kind of sympathy to the devs. It's hard for them to do that, especially with like how difficult it is to actually write policy that kind of outright condemns essentially AFK farming, right? With this stuff. But yeah, like it's funny because it probably isn't a huge deal in Anet's perspective. If we're being real here, it's just a bit of an eyesore on the maps there. So I'm not sure if they're super bothered about like addressing it. Unless I guess it got like so bad it was just like infesting every single map, which would probably be.
Yeah, I got in the video I made. I got a little clip of GM Claude, the guy that I was talking to for a lot of the time. Like he has access to the spreadsheet and like editorial access and stuff to it. Whether or not he has actually used it and looked at it, I don't know. But I got a clip of him coming over and looking at the giga multi-box farm of like the 20-something accounts, and he stands there. It's like, all right, everybody move to the left, and like you see this guy with all of his accounts like
slowly move them, right? Like tab into them.
All of the sort of semi-attentive players were like, oh, something's happening. What's this? Oh, all right, I'll move out the way and I'll like mount up or whatever. And then there's this guy with all his accounts. Like one account hops on a raptor, very slowly walks to the side. The next character hops on, slowly moves to the side. It was like 5 minutes of just this one mega multi-box just like moving. It was pretty funny to watch it. And he's just sitting there, you just see him go, in chat, and then he just disappears. With the way the policy and stuff is written, in order for like the AFK farmers that you see there, in order for them to not be breaking the terms of service at all, because a lot of people go, oh, they're not breaking the terms of service, like they're fine, they're monitoring the game. That's not okay. That's fine. I mean, sorry. In order for what they're doing to legitimately be okay, you have to envision every account there that you're seeing is focused on like they have their game as their primary window, and every 19 seconds or whatever Nightfall's coordinate is, they're sitting there and pressing the button themselves. They're sitting there and going, all right, Nightfall, and then they're just sitting there and watching the game. Nightfall, and they do that for 8 hours on end. If you can imagine someone doing that for 8 hours on end without moving,
no way.
that is the person
Yeah.
that has to be playing these accounts in order for them to be legitimate and okay to be there.
And like, here's the thing, right?
That it doesn't exist. No one does that.
No one does. And this is why I feel like Arenanet could just ban these people, right? Because there's no way. It's kind of like beyond a reasonable doubt. Like there is absolutely no shot that like these mechanists are like using their mech abilities like Nightfall, right? Like and like making them fire off the mortar. There is absolutely no way that's going on there whatsoever. No, not even close, right? Like, it is what's going on. So it's like, I don't know. They probably should just ban them, right? Because what are they going to do? Are they going to complain? Are they really going to complain? Because come on. Especially if you've got like a larger operation going, you know, you've got like a multi-box, you know exactly what you're doing, right? Like that's you like, because that's the other thing about AFK farming, that nobody accidentally does this. You know what I mean? It's like there's no way that a new player could get caught in the crossfire and get banned, you know, wrongly, right? I actually think that I'm curious if you have like a counterexample of this, but I can't imagine a false positive ban for AFK farming. I just can't imagine that. Like, how could an innocent player like end up doing this at all. I just don't see that even being possible. To be honest,
I can think maybe because I'm not sure if you've seen it yourself. Have you been to the Blood Tide Coast spot? That's the one that abuses the event.
No, I don't think I have seen that one.
You should go check it out now. It's at the Sorrowful Sound. I think is what it's called.
I'm going to investigate.
You know the little Quaggan village in Blood Tide.
Yeah.
Near the Crab Heart.
Oh, I think I found them. I think there might be some here.
Hang on, where are you? Yep. Okay, so go straight. So sort of.
Oh yeah. Shit.
Is there just a fuckload in there?
They're here.
Oh, yeah.
They are here.
There they are. There they are. Yeah. So that little corner where you are, like, there's probably, I don't know.
Holy shit, dude! I'm getting juice.
50.
Wait, I'm getting like absolute juice. It's like radiant dust and stuff. This is actually crazy. And engraved totems. Oh my god.
When the event is up, like what, if that event doesn't despawn, the rate that you're farming there, is like 27, 28.
Yeah. This is absolutely this is insane. And this is a cool tech, by the way. Well, it's not necessarily a cool tech, but it's a funny tech. It's like heal heralds. Using the thing that gives them the extra pip, right? So they can apply like perma boon and maintain the Malix elite permanently. So they have infinite. They can just like literally go AFK and just like pulse out damage. And it's even more than that. It perma pulses 25 might and quickness too, right? So they're also just completely juicing themselves.
So what a lot of heralds will do is they'll actually be a heal herald.
Yeah.
And so they'll give out 25 might, fury, protection, and regen. So they'll be healing the AFK farmers. But
and then they get
Arenanet
full credit.
Recently added because Arenanet added that change for World versus World, how to give support players more credit, because then support players aren't tagging enemies. So like, we need to give them credit. So if you give boons to somebody who kills an enemy, you also get credit. So you can have an AFK heal herald, just heals the absolute crap out of everyone. No one ever dies. And then every enemy just gets one shot, full credit, and you're not even doing anything. You're not even killing anything. It is insane.
Yeah, I mean, the loot here is actually insane, by the way.
Yeah, like, it is nuts.
This is kind of busted, actually. Like, I've already got 8. I've been here for like 2 minutes. 8 engraved totems and radiant dust. So for reference, each totem is 3 silver. The radiant dust, I think, is a bit more expensive. Yeah, 7 silver each. So like, I've got a couple of gold just by being here for like 2 minutes. Already, actually.
Yeah. And you'll also be getting like some bags. I think some little loot bags.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the diminishing returns, that's what does kick in pretty quickly. Because I've sat there for a little bit with the event on and off and that. I had about a 2 or 3 hour session, and that was 18,000. 18 gold per hour.
Yeah, pretty good then. Pretty good.
Yeah, so like that's 18 gold an hour, and then that takes into account some of the diminishing returns that comes in after probably about half an hour. But yeah. As you said, if that diminishing returns doesn't hit 0, something is still worth doing.
Exactly, that's kind of the problem.
But what you were saying before was like with how people could possibly be falsely banned if Arenanet is just like, nah, get them all out of here, ban everybody. My thinking was something like this spot in particular. You're an open world player, you see just this horde of players killing enemies, and you're just like, oh, what are these guys doing? So you're just a legitimate player there, being curious. You join in and start killing the enemies as well, and a GM just comes in and wipes everyone out.
Yeah, I guess you could honestly get caught here, because I could 100% imagine a player doing what I'm doing, like realizing that you're getting fat loot and actually just kind of like just joining in, right? 100%. Yeah. I could see that happening for sure. That could happen. Yeah, so they'd have to be careful.
Like joining in without realizing that it is, because if everyone's doing it, there's no way it could possibly be against the policy. That would be the mindset, I think.
Wouldn't like actually doing it manually kind of prevent that though? Because if I look at me, there's another player here now actually, right? And I'm looking at them. They're moving a little bit. They're kind of wiggling. They're doing like the micro stutters that normal players do. And while I was at the choice spot, like a couple of people from the stream showed up, right, and started actually like actively farming them, right? Like, so at the end of the day, like I think as long as it was done manually, like you wouldn't it maybe wouldn't be so much of a potential issue, because like the only players that the GMs would go for, like, oh well, I would hope they would go for, would be like the fully AFK people who are just like not moving whatsoever. But this is actually insane. This one is juice. This is like a giga farm actually.
And the best thing about that one is you don't even need to have an expansion.
Yeah, it's core. Yeah, core.
You can just sit. You don't even have to. If you have no masteries, like you can sit there and I think I tested it. I think the loot timeout is 2 minutes. Rough. Oh, it's like a minute 30 to 2 minutes 30, somewhere around that lines. I should have written it down somewhere, but because I have some accounts that are just baseline heroic edition, no expansions or anything. And I was like, well, you see a lot of accounts with 2 masteries, and I was just wondering how often they would have to actually be pressing F to loot. And yeah, it's about two or so minutes. So even if you're just AFK farming there for 2 minutes at a time, you're just like, Alt Tab, F, back to work. Alt Tab, F. And you're just getting like these hordes of loot just flowing in.
Yeah.
But that spot that you're at in particular, if someone was to complete that event, 5 inquests spawn there. And it is abysmal.
Maybe I should complete the event. Someone's completing the event, actually. It's going to be over. It's over. It's actually over.
Do it. And then,
okay, I'm doing it. I am shutting these down, guys. Like, I am the police. I am shutting these. I'm shutting this farm down, guys. It's over.
The rates just dive.
Yeah.
So that spot is literally only good for the event.
Yeah. And this doesn't count. There's no way this can count as griefing because I'm just doing the event. Boom. There you go.
Oh, no.
I'm innocent. How could I possibly be considered guilty?
You're playing the game legitimately with malicious intent.
I'm shutting this down, gamers. Don't shut it down. I'm farming. Someone in the chat's doing it. No. You're destroying my farm. I mean, we got to shut it down, guys. I'm sorry. Like, Jade Tronica is helping us out. We're shutting it down hard. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is pretty based farm. Kind of like it, though. Definitely gives me the old school vibes, you know, like mowing down all the mobs and farming. Oh, dude, I got 14 luminous dust as well. Like, look at this. I have 92 silver of luminous dust. I have 65 silver of engraved totems. Then I also have the little bags that I've dropped as well. They're worth 3 silver each, 46 silver. I've got like a couple of gold from doing this for like 5 minutes.
Yes.
It's actually kind of crazy.
You just rock in, slap some enemies, like, oh, yeah, there's a handful of gold, I'm out of here, goodbye.
Yeah. The farm. Gold per hour. Yeah, I mean, AFK farming, how about that? I guess that almost kind of covers it, right? I was just kind of interested in talking about it, like figuring out what's going on and talking about maybe some stuff that Arenanet can do. I mean, I don't know, I guess like a final thought would be like, do you think they're likely to actually do anything about this? Like...
I don't think so. Like, because nothing has really changed. Because I remember I mean, you have the deranged people that are just like, it's killing the game, it's destroying the game. It's like, it's not destroying the game by any means. But like, when you had people making those Reddit posts like daily, weekly, for like a couple years on end, nothing happened then, and there was arguably more outrage then than there is now. And at the moment, people are just like, nah, who cares? It is what it is at the moment. So I don't think there's any chance they'll change anything. But I do agree that the easiest way to fix anything would be like a systemic way of just diminishing returns hit 0 if you don't move. That means that forces people to have to actually move away from the area or bot. And if they're botting, well, makes it a bit obvious who's who then.
Exactly. I mean, and botting is one of those things that that is much more clear cut, right? If a player is a bot and they've been detected as a bot, then they just get cleansed. I do really think that the way to do it is just going to be DR, right? Like to try and address this and like make it so you have to move a lot. Like you know, you got to think like how often would you have to make it so that you have to move in order to like make people not want to do it anymore. Like for example, let's imagine the universe where if you literally do not move at all for 5 minutes, which by the way wouldn't be unreasonable to have it like this. If you do not move for 5 minutes whatsoever, you just basically stop getting loot. Would that really be a bad thing? Like, I mean, and that would be like a very extreme example of it. But I guarantee you, if it was like that restrictive, like, I don't think people would do this anymore. Like, it's just not going to be worth it, right? Like, it's going to be way too much effort to have the tag back, and it's not gonna allow you to kind of do your thing, right? And actually, you know, do your secondary objective or primary objective while you AFK farm the game. Like, that's the type of thing that I think is going to address this.
I think it'd have to be like a 1200 to 2000 radius, I think.
Yeah, so you have to move quite a long way, right? Yeah, to fix it. Yeah.
Like 12,000 in like a farming sense is really small.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're like actively playing the game and stuff, running around killing mobs, 1200 is extremely small.
Yeah.
But if you have to move out 1200 distance and then back 1200 distance just to AFK farm, like that's an effort.
Oh yeah, exactly, and that then it's just not worth it anymore. People are not going to do that. Like, the only people who would still engage in it would be people who are doing RMT, right? Like, and actually like selling the AFK farm goal. It's just not going to be worth it. At that point, people would just. I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe I'm coping here, but I feel like people would prefer to play the game than kind of engage in like some kind of unfun stuff like that.